Hey everyone, Korey here, and today I wanted to talk about amplifiers. And I've been on about a 20-year journey to end up back where I started, which kind of is frustrating, but I thought I would talk about some of this just so you guys could maybe take a few of the things that I've learned through the years. All of that searching for the perfect tone type of thing. So, I'm playing through an amp I purchased yesterday, and this is a Fender Deluxe Reverb. And this is the custom shop hand-wired one. I got a really good deal on a used version of this, and I think it sounds great. Play a little bit for you. So I'm basically just plugging into, I have a Strobo Stomp MIDI, and then I'm using a Dude overdrive, and then straight into the amplifier. So no funny business. Reverb's on just above 2, and I am on 2 on the volume knob on the normal channel. So real classic tone here. I'll show you a little bit of the overdrive with that. So, anyway, I have been through probably, close to 50 amplifiers in the last 20 years. So, been playing professionally for 20 years. I've played over 4,000 gigs in that time, and I've been through a ton of stuff. So, I started off on a reissue deluxe reverb that I purchased in 2003 or 4 when I was working at Guitar Center in Roseville, Minnesota. Roseville? Whatever. Anyway, and I played that amp for quite a few years until about 2009. I used that amp for everything. I used it for gigs, I used it for session work, I even used it for teaching, for practice, and I had a little Fender Frontman solid-state amp that I would use when I wasn't, wanting to plug into the big amp. So the Deluxe Reverb, as a lot of you guys know, is pretty much the perfect club amp. It's the right wattage to kind of put it on like 3 on the volume. And even then, it's pretty loud for a lot of gigs. So I'm usually a Tele guy. I've had this particular Telecaster since about 2011. So this is a American Vintage 52 reissue stock, other than having 2 refrets done on it. And the finish is all off the neck at this point. So besides that, yeah. So I've basically been a Tele guy. I got my 59 reissue Strat back there. Anyway, so what happened is I noticed the amp was starting to get noisy. And of course, the reissue amps are PCB. And, even retubing it and all this other stuff, I was just like, well, maybe it's just the fact that it's not, a boutique amp at the time. Deluxe reverbs, you could probably have them new for $800 or something. This would have been like 2004, something like that. And so I started searching for other tones. I started doing a research of all the different boutique amps around the time. I was kind of interested in some of the tweed stuff. If I went vintage, I've always been interested in champs. I have a hand-wired champ back there that I like to use for a lot of things. And I got into Dr. Z amps. I was really looking for simplicity. So one of the very first videos I ever put on YouTube was way back in, I think, maybe 2007, 8, or 9. It was a Carmen Ghia. Real simple amp, 18 watts, 2 EL84 power tubes, and that amplifier was great, volume and tone control. I didn't like the fact that EL84 was rattled a lot, and that amp was extremely loud, especially with the Celestian Blue that I had in it. And at the time, I was kind of going for, a really minimalist thing on a lot of my gigs, so not having reverb, and, I started experimenting with pedals and stuff like that with that amplifier to get it to sound what I was used to. As my life in the commercial music scene went on, I ended up playing an awful lot of country gigs and an awful lot of worship music. So country gigs, of course, we're playing everything from the 60s and 70s all the way to the modern stuff. So you have to be able to do a, detune thing for like a Jason Aldean song all the way to Merle Haggard and that type of thing. So the pedal boards grew and all that stuff started getting bigger, going from plugging straight into a deluxe reverb into having pretty decent sized pedal boards with delays and reverbs, phasers, gain staging, overdrives, lots of different flavors and that type of thing. And so I kept going back and forth between this minimalist thing and, trying to have every tone possible for the gig that I was on. So when I moved to Texas in 2013, I got the gig at Cowboys Dance Hall in Arlington, where we had a set list of probably over, 600 tunes. And so I had to have all the sounds. And so, I started messing around with stuff. Did I want a small pedal board that worked with that, or did I want to use a amplifier that had lots of sounds in it? So I moved there with basically a Carmagia and a Tweed Deluxe, and then I moved on to a Mesa Boogie Mark V, kind of a jump. The lineage there, in the late 70s, Larry Carlton and Robin Ford both played Mark I Mesa Boogies. And so, me being a Larry Carlton and Robin Ford fan, I could get those sounds using the Mark I a part of the second channel. So I really liked that. And the fact that I could get all sorts of different Fender tones and then Marshall Crunch tones and then the more high gain modern stuff. So I really liked that amp, but I had a lot of different problems with it. I actually went through 4 or 5 Mesa Boogies over that time period. One of my Mark V heads blew up opening for Willie Nelson at Billy Bob's, Texas, which is not something you want to have happen. So, I tried basically everything. I did everything from like a Bassman. I went through Tweed Twin, the Mesa Boogie stuff. We went to Helix. We went to Kemper. I started using the modeling stuff, especially on church gigs and that type of thing. But I was always really wanting to get kind of back to the blackface thing because it's so simple and I didn't need a lot of stuff to make it work. So I ended up doing, a Princeton reverb. And while the Princeton is great, it doesn't have the frequency response of a deluxe. It's small and portable, and it's kind of good for that thing. But my particular Princeton reverb was subjected to an awful lot of high voltage. The church I played at would commonly get 127 volts at the wall. So on this other side of my deluxe, you'll notice that I have something called a brown box. And the brown box, what it does is it lowers the voltage, so you can kind of brown things out. So I have this set at about 117 volts right here in my home, and I don't have to worry about the high voltage. So this started bugging me. I'm like, well, I'm having amps blow up on stage. I'm having amps blow up due to high voltage. It's damaging amps. Repairs are costly. Tubes are costly. This is getting ridiculous. Well, then the Tone Master amps came out, so I got a Tone Master Deluxe reverb. That was the first one that I had purchased since my original reissue amp in 2004. And of course, it's digital, and I really tried telling myself how good it was. And they're a fine amp, of course, but I mean, you can tell it doesn't break up the same way. The mid-range is a completely different place. While it is a lot quieter than a normal Deluxe reverb, it was a little bit of a challenge. I love the weight of it. I love the line out and that type of thing. But I got a little bit of the digital fatigue after a while using it. So that went on, and I was like, well, what else is reliable that I don't have to mess with tubes, but it's not digital? That led me to Quilter. So I now own pretty much every amp that Quilter has ever made, and I love the Quilter stuff. One of my main amps that I have used is the Quilter Mach 3. Which is an exceptional amplifier, all analog. There's nothing digital about it except for, I believe, the reverb, which is made by New Neighbor. So there's a little collaboration there. Love the Quilter stuff. Super lightweight, Class D power amps. You can plug it in anywhere. But again, they don't break up the same way that a tube amp does. And there's something about the simplicity of having like a deluxe reverb that really is important to me. Even with the Quilters, I mean, they're kind of sterile sounding. I mean, they have a little bit of character, but for the most part, they're kind of sterile. So you need to add, again, lots of pedals, lots of things to kind of spruce it up and make it sound really nice. And so I just kept going back and forth between these things. So enter in Tweed Champs, and one of the last things I really tried working on was a Tweed Deluxe. And those are great, but of course, they don't get a lot of clean headroom for some of the country stuff. They're great for rock stuff. They do get a little smushy. There's a very narrow band of usable volume on them. You get all of the available volume before like 2.5 on the dial. And so they have their problems there, and of course not the built-in reverb. So anyway, and through this whole time period, I went through tons of guitars and pedals and everything too, always keeping a couple really good Telecasters and Stratocasters with me. So here we are, and this is October of 2025, and worked a few deals out to get this amplifier, and I tell you what, it feels like I jumped back in time to 2005, 2006, and it is, I mean, it's such, now the deluxe reverb may not be the thing for you, but for me, it helps me to think less when I'm playing. There's no menus, there's nothing here. I mean, my pedal board for right now is this Strobo Stomp and the Dude Overdrive. And so it just really works out well for me. In any case, so this video is more about just encouraging you to kind of go with your gut on gear. If you don't feel like you need a lot of stuff, or if you have a particular thing that you're really looking for, you know, kind of stay in that ballpark. What I really should have done is probably searched out a Silverface Deluxe back in the day and kind of worked on getting that up to a passable, you know, gigging place. But I'm really happy with this. Of course, it has its flaws, you know. All of these deluxe reverbs kind of have a little bit of background hiss, especially on this one since they put the reverb on both channels. But, I mean, it's not terribly loud, and it doesn't get louder as you turn the amp up. So, and it records well, it feels really good on the fingers, and I feel like I'm home. I'll put in some clips here of me playing it with a backing track just so you can get a feel for what I'm hearing and what I'm enjoying about this particular sound, and why I think a Telecaster and Deluxe Reverb is pretty much a match made in heaven. Comment below with your favorite amp and guitar combo. What's your desert island mix between the two of them? Maybe add a pedal in there. I'd love to hear what you guys are playing through, and if you've had a similar journey. I mean, I often joke with my wife about I could have saved us like 75 grand if I would have just kept the original amp. Ew. So, in any case, hopefully I've learned my lesson, and I hope that you have learned something from this as well. You don't need to keep on searching for the perfect sound. It's almost better to just stick with what you have. In my case, a nice Tele, a nice Strat, Deluxe Reverb, and a few decent pedals, an overdrive, and a tuner. And that's pretty much what I'm going to be using for a while. Thanks for joining me today, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and head on over to Patreon for a lot of guitar instructional content. We do everything from the beginner course, which is the guitar in a year for beginner to intermediate, all the way through advanced concepts. And if you're looking for exceptional one-on-one lessons, feel free to reach out to me as well. I do have some open slots right now, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.